look who stumbled his way back onto the bet set after a while away. It is none other than marathon completer Joe Fortenbaugh. Congrats on 26.2.
Thank you, and I'm happy to report that the U.S. men's record of 2 hours and 4 minutes still intact.
Still intact.
Still intact after I ran.
All right, it's been a while. You dust off the old bet playbook. Remember how this whole thing works?
Very excited, very comfortable seating. I like what you did with the place
Yeah,
with the
I jazzed
purple.
it up a little bit.
I believe the late Prince's birthday was just this past weekend, so a little tribute to one of the all-time greats. Very excited to be here.
Purple rain and purple chairs here on Bet. We, of course, are going to dive into Game 3 of the NBA Finals. We'll see it tonight. Ohm Youngmisuk and Bontemps live on the scene in Boston going to join us. Jessica Mendoza to talk Women's College World Series as well. Going to be here live on Bet. And our NFL Futures Week thread continues as we look at some potential league leaders we like in the futures market. But let's get it started by flexing the prolific is the word I'm looking for, vocabulary. Great start. We're trying to do a good word. Prolific vocabulary is needed here. You know the deal. Good word. I say a statement, read a prompt. First word that pops into that big old shiny dome of yours, just write it down right there and explain why it is the word that you choose. I'll let you start and we'll go to the diamond. Women's College World Series diamond, that is. The Oklahoma Sooners are a minus 750 series favorite to win the Women's College World Series over Texas. The best of 3 series, by the way. In Game 1, we will see here tonight. They open the tournament minus 350, but laying 750 with OU as the favorites. What's your good word?
All right, first word, and I had the option of allowing you to write the words for me. I declined. I said, I'll handle it, and now I'm realizing I wish I would have made you do it. I could have sat here and been a lot more amicable.
Buddy, your motor skills are still intact after that 26.2.
And I'm realizing we got problems early. I may need you to go ahead.
All right, let's see what I can do. What's your word?
The word is full. F-U-L-L, full, as in full disclosure. I really don't know anything about women's college softball. No disrespect to the sport. This time of year, I do jump in to watch the competitive nature of what takes place. But for me to give you betting advice would probably be something I'd be doing in poor form. It wouldn't put you in a position to win. So I'll let you know with full disclosure that I'm not necessarily equipped to tell you this. But I can tell you this. A price of minus 750 implies that Oklahoma should win this series about 88% of the time. So if you believe the Sooners have a better than 88% chance of winning this series, you should make that bet. It's a good bet. Conversely, if you believe it happens fewer than 85% of the time, you pass or you go with Texas. If you're going to get dicey here, you're going to get interested, I will play Texas at the big price on the comeback because they did hand Oklahoma their only regular season loss of the year, and they had 29 victories over top 100 RPI teams. I did my research. For that. Can't say the same about Daily Wager. I'm going in with nothing later today, but that's a story for another day. So the word is full disclosure, but I would take a shot on the dog here. I think they're live.
Interesting. I'm going to use another 4-letter word. And
careful now.
Is boom. As in this team.
Careful with that too, by the way.
This Oklahoma team, go to the window, make the bet, say boom. Even at this price, feel comfortable because if you haven't noticed, they hit the ball like the 1927 Yankees and they pitch like the 1994 Atlanta Braves. All they do is overpower opponents at the dish and on the mound. It is one of the most impressive collection of stats when you read where they rank in the nation in batting average, OPS, home runs, RBI, runs, and then go to the pitching side, strikeouts, ERA, whip. It's like 1 or 2 or 3 in every single one of those significant categories. We will talk with Jessica Mendoza later about whether this is the greatest softball team of all time.
Is that actually a question in play?
That is where we are starting to consider this OU team. So I say, boom, go make the bet there with that squadron.
I feel like I should have gone second on this one because instead of full disclosure, I would have said full of you-know-what with my analysis. You got me on the play where I'd rather make a full bet on Oklahoma at this point.
All right, perhaps we can slide into a sport you're more comfortable with. How about the NHL? Nathan MacKinnon, superstar scorer for the Colorado Avalanche, is 2-1 to win the Conn SMYTHE. Now, overnight, he went from favorite at about plus 175 to the second shortest odds. His teammate, defenseman Cale Makar, is now the favorite. But we're focusing here on MacKinnon. 2-1 to win the Conn SMYTHE. What's your good word?
While you were on camera, I picked up the iPad again to see if I could figure it out. Can't, so I'm going to need to lean on you. The word here will be premium.
premium.
You are paying a premium if you're going to take the 2-to-1 price on Nathan MacKinnon. No disrespect, but look at the situation right now as it stands. Colorado has been an absolute freight train through the playoffs. They're currently 12-2 this postseason. 12-2. That's not a warm-up schedule. They have run through the West and gone 12-2. And in the process, they just swept the Edmonton Oilers right out of the playoffs. They're going to have plenty of rest. Like I said, they've been a freight train. They score a ton of goals. The public likes them. The bookmakers know you're coming, so they adjust the prices knowing they're going to take the action. We talk about this all the time. Tiger Woods in his heyday, he was never worth 8-1 to win a tournament, but so much money was going to come in. The bookmakers didn't want to have a lot of liability if they priced Woods accurately. So you are paying a premium here. When it comes to Makar, 22 points in 14 playoff games versus MacKinnon, 18 points in 14 playoff games. I'm not comfortable at this juncture betting against Tampa Bay or betting against the Rangers. The Rangers will not die. Like a cockroach, like New York, as much as you might try to take it out, you can't. It is as resilient a city as you will find. And Tampa Bay is the two-time defending champs, and they just popped the Rangers in back-to-back games. So you got to be willing to bet on the guy who's going to win. And while Colorado's a favorite, I'm not willing to do that just yet.
Yeah, premium on Nate MacKinnon makes some sense. I'm just going to use this word, wrong. And when we got this prompt last night, I was insinuating betting on MacKinnon is betting on the wrong Colorado Avalanche player. His teammate Cale Makar should be the Avalanche player that you bet on. And now we see that the market has come around to that. But I want to add this other thread as well. I'm not sure betting on a Western Conference player is the right player in terms of value. I think it's the wrong conference. Go to the East, where Igor Shesterkin has arguably been the best player in the goal or on the ice of anyone in this postseason with what he's done carrying the Rangers to this point and goal. And we know how much the Conn Smythe kind of leans towards a goalie who gets hot and plays dominant. And then they haven't knocked off the Lightning yet. We're the two-time defending champs and have guys like Stamkos, Hedman, Kucherov, and their own all-time goalie in Vasilevsky. So I say wrong because not that MacKinnon's not great. I don't even know if he's the right player on his team. I'm not sure a Western Conference bet is the right bet in this market.
We're locked in. We're locked in early. I like it. I like it a lot.
All right, let's see if we can stay locked in. Here's one guy who arguably is not locked in. That's Klay Thompson. All right, let's move to the NBA Finals. Klay Thompson, if you really want a long shot, if you really want to try and nail one from deep, 150-1 to win NBA Finals MVP. And you see his numbers in this series, very un-Klay-like. He has struggled.
Klay Thompson, a two-way player. This is a two-way word. 0. Because it's also a number, as I'm sure you're aware. 0.
I've heard.
As in, add a 0 to 150-1, and then maybe we can talk about me betting on Klay Thompson to win the MVP award at 1,500-1 rather than 150-1. What makes anyone think that if the Warriors win this thing, it's not going to Steph Curry? After 2 games without Steph Curry, this would be an absolute disaster for the Warriors. Klay Thompson shooting 30% from the floor, 5 total rebounds, 4 total assists, pass. He's not winning this award. Love Klay, but he's not the same guy we remember.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Word I'm going to use here is flat, as in this, like his shot these days, this bet is going to fall flat if you take it to the window. The only conceivable outcome is if within the first 5 minutes of Game 3, Steph Curry gets hurt and he's not able to play the rest of the series.
Okay.
And then Klay goes on to carry them to victory there and the rest of the way by scoring 25 to 30 points a night. But the chances of that, what is this, 151 implies, what, 0.5%, something like that? I think it's less than 0.1%.
If it's not going to be Steph, you want to look to Draymond, maybe Andrew Wiggins if he can get hot. But Klay, I mean, what
and
needs
let's be honest, if Steph gets hurt in the first 5 minutes of Game 3, the Warriors ain't winning the series. That is the way that I'm looking at it. All right, let's dive deeper into Game 3 taking place tonight as the series has moved from San Francisco to Boston. And we have to welcome in our good friend covering the Warriors throughout this playoff run, Ohm Youngmisuk. Yeah, Ohm, we appreciate you dropping by as always. Timmy B is on the other side of the arena there. We're waiting to get to him, but you're embedded with this Warriors team. You know them so well. Here's the good news for the Warriors. They've got a road win in each of their last 26 playoff series that they've had this group together. The bad news is Boston, coming off a loss in Game 2, is undefeated, 6-0, coming off an L in these playoffs. Now, we were just talking about Klay Thompson. The bad news about Klay is he has struggled big time. What is Klay saying? What is Klay doing in terms of his performance and trying to rectify that as this series continues in Boston?
I got a scenario for you guys in a case that maybe Steph Curry doesn't win MVP.
Oh.
Perhaps are we overlooking Game 6 Klay? I mean, yes, we would need Game 6 Klay probably from here on out. But Klay Thompson said the other day when he's struggling, he tends to do a reference point sometimes. He'll go onto YouTube and search his greatest hits. So I asked him, oh, when was the last time you did this? He said, Monday. And I said, well, what do you normally go to? What's your go-to video? And he said, Game 6 Klay. So if Klay is watching his greatest hits and trying to watch Game 6 Klay to remind him of all the things he can do, I don't know. If Game 6 Klay comes out, you can make the argument if he does it for several games, who knows, maybe he could change those odds a little bit. But I would say they desperately need him or somebody else to step up because Steph Curry really is carrying the load. And right now, they could use Klay Thompson, who went 1 for 8 from 3 in Game 2. He just looks rushed. He doesn't have his feet under him. I think he looks much better when he's attacking the basket and then kind of moving his way back out and getting into a rhythm and shooting threes.
Through 2 games in this series, the Warriors have outscored the Celtics in the third quarter, 73-38. Yes, you heard that correctly. A ridiculous number, something this guy's been predicting throughout the course of the playoffs. He's been all over it. That's as many compliments as he's getting from me today, so we will continue. This has been a Golden State staple since the start of the dynasty. Great third quarters. What is it about this team that they do in the locker room that makes them come out so hot in the second half?
They're just a veteran group. I mean, not even a lot needs to be said by Steve Kerr. I asked him the other day after Game 2, what did you say to these guys to get them to come out like gangbusters in the third quarter? He was like, not much. It really wasn't a lot of strategy or any tweaks or anything like that. They just kind of know what to do. And Steph Curry had talked about, to what you had said earlier, that they hold an NBA record, at least winning 1 road game in 26 consecutive playoff series, is that they just have that experience, and it's able to show up when they need it most. There's a grit. It doesn't matter what type of style you play, what type of defense you throw at them. You want to play slow, you want to play fast. They find ways to win on the road. Now, given all of that, I would say tonight is going to be the most hostile environment the Golden State Warriors have faced in the NBA Finals. And I think Draymond Green is probably going to be in the eye of the storm after everything that happened in Game 2. I'm sure Boston is going to try to get him to go over the edge and over the line with emotions. But Kevon Looney told me this morning, hey, look, when you think Draymond Green's about to go over the edge, he's able to keep us all calm in the storm, and he kind of thrives in situations like that. And that's kind of what all the Warriors do in situations like that.
Always appreciate your insights and efforts when it comes to the Warriors. Great, valuable information from the one and only Ohm Youngmisuk joining us here on this Wednesday edition of Bet. Ohm, thank you very much.
Ohm in a suit for the first time in Bet history. You're normally in a T-shirt or a hoodie. Very
looks
nice.
fantastic in the suit. Don't get it twisted. But I like when he's wearing like the Roger Federer tennis pullover and some J's are in the background. That's my preferred look for Ohm, but he's rocking the suit for sure. We mentioned that third quarter differential for the Warriors. We'll see if that plays a part in tonight's matchup, but a lot of that damage, pardon me, of course, all of it to this point in the series done with the Warriors at home, where they are a far more efficient basketball team. I mentioned Ohm, not the only one, live from Beantown, ready to dive into Game 3, covering the Boston Celtics, who are hashtag allabout18. It is an equally dapper Timmy Bontemps joining us here on Bet. Tim, let's start with this. The Celtics are actually making basically as many three-point shots as they are two-point shots in this series. They're actually shooting the ball with a better efficiency from downtown, which is wild. Maybe that speaks to the Golden State defense or just how good they are shooting the rock. Is this the way the Celtics want to play, and is this the way the Celtics need to play to win this series, relying so much on the three-point jumper?
No, absolutely not. And look, that is when you look at those numbers and you say that a team is shooting worse from 2 than from 3, unless a team is shooting 50% from 3, that is a bad sign for a team's offense. You look at these first 2 games, the Celtics have been putrid inside the arc. That was particularly the case in Game 2 when they couldn't hit anything in the paint. And in particular, you saw them driving into the paint repeatedly and trying to go up through the defense and score and not getting foul calls and then chucking up bad shots, and that leading to them getting frustrated, getting back slowly on defense and causing Golden State to get out into transition. I think there's no doubt that the Celtics have to be much better inside the arc tonight if they want to win. Look, this is going to be, as you mentioned, Golden State is a very good defense. Celtics obviously have, the best defense in the NBA this season. This is going to be a defense-first series, but Boston has to be much more efficient inside the arc. They cannot rely on shooting 45 or 40% from three every game. That's just not a way to go about trying to win NBA Finals games, and it certainly won't do enough for them to win 3 more games and win a title out of this series.
Tim, first off, from Tyler and myself, golf clap for you for nailing the under in Game 2. Didn't even cross the threshold of 200 points, so we're very interested to know what you like in tonight's game. Boston's laying 3.5, total of 213. How would you play it?
I'm taking Boston in the points tonight. I think the Celtics, if you go back over the last 4 months, fellas, the only time the Celtics have lost back-to-back games over that stretch is when they didn't send half their team to Toronto to play a game in April, right at the end of the regular season, and basically just chucked the game away. So, to me, I expect the Celtics to bounce back tonight. I expect them to play well. I expect them to win. As I just said before, though, this is going to be a defense-first series. It's why I like the under in Game 2. It's why I would look at the under going forward. Now, 213 is a little bit low. We could see these teams maybe hit threes. You never quite know how this is going to go, so I would lean on the under. I would play the Celtics minus 3.5 pretty hard. And the other thing I would watch throughout these games, until the Celtics play better in the third quarter, I've talked to our buddy Doug Kazarian about it a bunch. I'd be looking at live bets on the Warriors in the third quarter until they prove me otherwise that the Celtics are going to have a good third quarter. We saw Golden State dominate the third these last 2 games. And even if Boston's just not as bad in the third quarter tonight, that still means they're probably losing by 6 or 7 points. You can probably win a live bet there. So to me, that's what I'd be looking at going into tonight's Game 3.
I'm so proud to hear Tim not only give a side and a total, but then get real micro and degen with a third quarter bet based on a trend we've all seen in this NBA Finals. Tim, you are the man. We appreciate it. A bounce pass away from Ohm Youngmisuk there in Boston. Both of you, we look forward to your coverage throughout the day as we get ready for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Thanks, Tim.
What an absolute degenerate. I mean, he just laid it out exactly. That's how you get to our heart. That's how you get to our heart.
Well, let's see if we align with what
right.
Tim is feeling for a game script here. He has officially said he's on the Celtics, minus the points. He likes the under as well. Did mention, hey, pay attention to that third quarter. If you like the Warriors at any point in this game, maybe that's the time to go at them. You see Boston's been awesome off losses, actually flawless off of losses in this postseason, 6-0. The Warriors are just 3-4 away from the Chase Center during this postseason. They've kind of struggled a little bit on the road. We'll start with side and total first and foremost, my friend. What kind of game script are you developing? What kind of plays are you making?
Celtics, big. Celtics big tonight. I'm going to throw that one out there. What would lead me to believe that I should back the Warriors? More on that in a second. Let's start with this. Similar situation the Warriors faced in Game 2. They're off a loss. They're at home. They're laying 4.5. That's the situation essentially that Boston's facing here. They're at home, off a loss. Warriors laying 4.5, Boston laying 3.5. Why? Is it because the Warriors are the better team? I don't see it that way. Some might, so they'd agree. I don't. I see value in the Celtics. 6-0 straight up, 6-0 against the spread off a loss this postseason. Everyone knows that. The one part they don't add to that equation, those 6 wins are coming by an average of 15 points per game. They're not just winning off a loss, they are blowing you out off a loss. They shot 37% from the floor in Game 2. That is going to improve. They committed 18 turnovers in Game 2. That was their second most in the entire postseason. That's going to be a point of emphasis. They're going to ride the crowd noise. I don't think Steph's going to get a lot of help tonight. Role players don't play as well on the road, laying the 3.5 with the Celtics, and I'm doing it big.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Celtics side for the game. I agree with Tim. That's an under environment. I kind of like isolating the Golden State side, thinking if Boston wins, they limit them offensively. But I'm going to go full Tim Bontemps degen mode here. Okay. I'm going to isolate the first half, and I'm going to lay the 2.5 with Boston at home over the course of the first 24 minutes. I did some digging. Not literal.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to get those fingernails dirty.
These hands are soft, okay? This face was not meant for manual labor.
Not a day of work on those hands.
The Boston Celtics at home this postseason have a +6 net rating in the first half, okay? The Golden State Warriors this postseason have a -16 net rating in the first half on the road.
-16, did you say?
-16 in the first half for the Warriors on the road. +6 for Boston at home in the first half this postseason. That is why I'm taking the Celtics in the first half, because that is a 22-point difference over 100 possessions. One half, cut in half, is 50 possessions. That's an an 8-point difference. Math, not my strong suit.
Yeah, slow down on all that math.
No, it's right. 22 in half is 11. Bottom line, I expect the Celtics to jump out in a big way and have close to a double-digit lead in the first half. I think with that third quarter trend, they can get back in the game in that third quarter, maybe late in the fourth quarter. But I expect, coming off a loss, Boston to dominate in the first 24 minutes at home. I love my favorite bet today. It will be my best bet on Daily Wager.
Nice.
Celtics laying the 2.5 in the first half. Prop market.
I got two for you. Number one, Jason Tatum over 5.5 assists. It's plus 115. Love the price on this, considering Tatum is averaging 6.1 assists per game this postseason, but that's not what I want you to focus on. I want you to focus on Tatum's assists in his wins versus his losses this postseason. In the wins, averaging 7.1 assists per game. 13 playoff wins for the Celtics. 12 of them he's had at least 5, so a very high floor. In the losses, only 4.3 assists per game. I believe, as mentioned earlier, the Celtics win tonight. Tatum's the play. Jaylen Brown over 23.5 points. Go back to game 2. He had a horrific night. He shot 29% from the floor, 33% from deep, and he only scored 17 points. But he only played 27 minutes, his fewest of the entire postseason. He gets 10 more minutes, which is reasonable. He shoots a little bit better. We don't think we can stretch 17 points into 24 points. I believe we can. Jaylen Brown over 23.5.
I'm going to look at a Celtic as well, Derek White, who's become an important part of their rotation for this particular matchup. I'm going to play him over 17.5 par. When I looked last night, this was 14.5. And I was boop, 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 hammer, 14.5. Why was it 14.5 when in games 1 and 2, he was averaging 16.5 points per game? Take away rebounds and assists, where he's about 2 or 3 in each of those per game. But he's playing more than 30 minutes per game because he's such a good defensive matchup for Klay and Steph and those wings. And he can knock down that outside shot. He can move the ball. He has size. He is an important part of Ime Udoka's rotation for this particular matchup. I see no reason why his minutes will decrease, go below 30. And if he's out there for 30 minutes, getting 18 par out of a guy who has been well over this in games 1 and 2, I feel comfortable with. But how about that move from 14.5 to 17.5?
Clearly, people think what you're thinking right there.
Hopefully, it has not
Which is
gotten
dangerous.
too high.
Very dangerous.
Right. People thinking what I'm thinking. Good God. No wonder we're in trouble around here. I'm curious what Jess Mendoza has to say and what she thinks about the Women's College World Series final between these two Big 12 headed to the SEC rivals?
Two friends.
Oklahoma and Texas. Yeah, a couple of friends. Here's our friend, Jess Mendoza. Jess, as we talked about earlier in the show, Oklahoma is a massive minus 750 favorite to win this series. They've been the best team in college softball all season long. Offense, defense, pitching, any metric you want to look at. Was there, however, any point in this season where you saw Oklahoma play and you didn't think they'd be in this position in the WCWS final?
I mean, they are ridiculous. We know the numbers. I mean, we talked about it all season long. But I do have to say, when Jordy Ball, their ace, went down a few weeks ago, and you got to understand her freshman year, and probably the best pitcher in the country, the swing and miss, the strikeouts, just the Max Scherzer stalking in the circle. When she went down and we weren't sure, she did not pitch in regionals, did not pitch in supers, but we did see her throw in the semifinals. She came in the loss. Up until that point, that was the weak spot. Nicole May, Hope Troutwine, as well as they've done, they're no Jordy Ball. So to me, that's the biggest difference. And how far can she go now that we're in these finals? This is the one, and there's very few, but the one weak link for Oklahoma.
You know, on the other side, Texas is the only unseeded team to make the WCWS final. They're also one of only 3 teams to beat Oklahoma this season. When you're scouting Texas, is there anything you can say that they are better at than Oklahoma is?
Speed. I've got one on you. They've got almost 100 stolen bases. They got 4 players in the starting lineup with at least 14, and they got some with 20 plus. So obviously Oklahoma, they're hitting long balls. They're breaking records offensively to ridiculous amounts. Do they need to steal bases? Probably not. But watch the short game. And you know, with softball, that's a huge thing. The top of the order, Janae Jefferson, Mia Scott, they're going to lay down some bunts. They're going to use that short game, really challenge Oklahoma's defense. And when you go stolen bases and just short game speed, That's the one thing that Texas has got over Oklahoma.
All right, Jess, I got to go back to this Oklahoma team and kind of where they fit in the pantheon of all-time great college softball teams. We see their record. We know what they do offensively, defensively, and pitching. They have 40 run-rule wins this season, and they run-ruled UCLA to get here to the Women's College World Series final. I think for most people, you look at the 1994 Arizona team, the 1992 UCLA team.
That's who I look at.
64-3 and 54-2 respectively on their way to a Women's College World Series title. Does Oklahoma have a shot to unseat either of those if they pull this off? Would they be the greatest team ever?
First of all, I love you guys bringing it back. I mean, early 90s teams, we got Laura Espinoza, Lisa Fernandez. I mean, these were epically amazing teams. Biggest difference is there were like 2 teams that could compete with them. It's different now, and that's why Oklahoma's better. Because as we saw with 64 teams getting in, and even now, the first unseeded team in Texas making it all the way to the finals for the first time in Women's College World Series history. What does that tell you? Parity. And so Oklahoma, to have the record that they have, the dominance they've had this season versus those early 90s teams, there's some more amazing teams out there that they're beating, they're competing against. Love Arizona and UCLA. Love you brought that up. But honestly, there was like 4 or 5 really good teams back then. Now there's 100.
Jessica Mendoza getting ready for the Women's College World Series to start tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Look forward to you sharing with us all of your coverage on the Women's College World Series. Thanks for joining us here on Bet, Jess.
You got it.
All right, 3 great ESPN personalities joining us here on the show. Trying to make it, I guess, we'll call it 3.5. If you add us up, we're about a quarter of a great personality.
That makes that yeah,
3.5.
I can argue that.
NFL Futures Week, league leaders, the topic we want to dive into, an opportunity for us to share with our viewers out there some long shots, some favorites, some smart, savvy plays on who we think could lead the league in specific stat categories. My friend, I'll let you go. What do you have as players you want to play at this point in the summer?
Well, I'll share with the viewers that my left leg has fallen asleep, and I've completely lost focus on everything that's happening right now. Shooting pain up my calf. Neither here nor there. Let's start with passing yardage. Derek Carr, right down the street at 12-1. He was 5th in passing yards last season for the Raiders, okay? Not for the Raiders, I should say for the entire NFL. But he didn't have Devontae Adams in his arsenal. And Adams, oh, by the way, all-pro, first team each of the last 2 years. He also had Darren Waller for only 11 games last season, all right? So that's going to be a big influx for the offense. I think it's going to be a tough season for the Raiders. Not that they'll be bad, but a lot of tough games on there. They're not going to be blowing anyone out. They're going to be throwing late in the fourth quarter. Josh McDaniels is head coach, offensive-minded guy. 12-1, I'll take a shot on DC.
Yeah, I like another AFC West quarterback, and that is Justin Herbert at 9-1 to not only lead the league in pass yards, but to lead the league in passing touchdowns as well. Surprise, surprise. That's why I like him as my MVP favorite. He threw for $5,000 last year for the Chargers in just his second year in the NFL. Should be even better this year. They have a great offense. They've got an even better defense now that may make life easier for that offense.
You got there.
They're going to play in, I think, some shootouts because of the talent in that division and the schedule that they'll play. So I like him to lead the league in pass yards at 9-1. I like him to lead the league in passing touchdowns at 9-1. Who do you think throws the most sixes this year?
Very quickly, I'm right there with you on Herbert at 9-1. You've been selling him for a while. I see no reason to go off that at that price. He's going to be competitive. He's got the arsenal. He gets better each year. Love what the kid can do. I'll give you rushing if you want that for rushing yards.
Sure, we got a couple minutes.
Nothing creative here. I'm going to go with the guy who did it last year, Jonathan Taylor at 5-1. He ran for 1,800 yards. He blew out the competition. I don't see 1,800 yards happening again, but what's changed about his situation that would make me think he's not going to have a solid year? I think the quarterback situation has improved a little bit. Carson Wentz, very inconsistent. I think Matt Ryan won't turn the ball over as much. Still has a solid offensive line, still has a relatively soft division. I think you're going to have games where you're going to be able to run. They want to play physical in Indianapolis. They want to play defense, and they want to run the ball. Taylor at 5-1, I'll take a shot, but it's not one I love.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Derrick Henry, who we've seen lead the league a couple times, and no one gets as many touches running the football as a healthy Derrick Henry. And coming off the injury, he should be healthy this year. Plus, I get a little bit better price, 6-1 as opposed to the 5-1. Tennessee lost A.J. Brown, traded him to the Eagles. They are going to ride their horse, Derrick Henry, into the ground 30, 35 carries a game wouldn't shock me for portions of the season. That won't be his, average carries per game throughout the entire season. But 20 is the absolute floor as long as he's healthy. They have to win with Derrick Henry because their offense can't do anything else. And Mike Vrabel has won a lot of football games riding Derrick Henry and an opportunistic defense and a few big plays from their passing game. So now that he's healthy again, I like Derrick Henry at 6-1 because he's the guy, as long as he is healthy, going to get the rock so much.
Receiving yards, I'm going to slide it in quick. CeeDee Lamb at 25-1. No Amari Cooper. I think Dallas will be in a lot of competitive games this year. CeeDee Lamb continues to get better. Good price at 25-1. It implies 3%. It's worth a shot.
I won't give you my receiving leader, but you can find it on our YouTube channel, /ESPN Sports Betting, youtube.com. It's a 40-1 long shot, by the way, that I think has some good value there. Good to have you back, brother. Was this harder than running the marathon?
Wish I could say the same. My leg has just cramped up to a point where I'm not even listening anymore.
Fortenbaugh, Fulghum.
So much pain.
We'll see you Friday.